So, my dad was a woodworker, I was a guitar player, I was in sales, my wife was in marketing. And one night I was thinking to myself, I said, guitars are beautiful wood. I play guitar. That was I knew very, very little about woodwork. So I meant to tell you that too. If you want to trade war stories, my dad Mark back there, Mark, the guy you can trade war stories with. I'll tell you how to find it, how to grade it, how it happens, all that stuff, and then more. But he's the woodworker. So I had an idea. I was dreading going to a sales meeting in the morning, and I said, "Now I gotta get back to playing guitar." But you can play like 20 minutes, and it was just de-stress, And I was like, guitars. They have this fancy wood. I know my dad used to work with Bird's Eye and Spade, but I was always going through the shop, and it wasn't. I didn't think much of it. I was a little punk kid, so I said, "Well, let me look into it. Maybe there's something to it. Maybe we can make something work." So I went to bed and I started doing research. And I quickly realized that other than being very addictive, was if you guys, a show of hands, how many people really appreciate beautiful grain figure in wood? So I upped it by record time. And I couldn't get enough. I had to know more, And I was like, how do I make this work? I was getting paid great money. I was a regional sales manager, 150 guys underneath me. And I was like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to tell my wife. So I didn't quit. And I started buying wood. And so when I did it, being the sales guy, I said, okay, if I'm going to spend, I think it was $4,000 or $5,000, I said, I'm going to buy it. What I figured too, there's not too many highly figured wood suppliers out there. They're not many at all. Fast forward, I'll cut you in a little bit wider on. But so I sized everybody up, and what I quickly realized was there was an enormous void in the highly figured wood business. There are people who don't ship you what you order, take a month to ship it to you, don't ship you your product at all, period. Hanging out in a newspaper, they were quick to take your money, and it's like they forgot all about customer service. Or they were quick to grade something, but it wasn't continuous. So I was thinking to myself, it can't be that easy. There's no way there'd be more people that do this, but I found out why. So I realized that when you buy wet wood, it's not straightforward. I made every mistake you can imagine, thousands of dollars. I learned how to ruin wood. Every mistake you can imagine, but I never gave up. It wasn't a money thing. It was an education thing. It was a passion thing, and I still have my day job, and I'm working hard. And then I started to bug my father because I didn't have a shop, didn't have tools, I didn't have a truck, and I'm like, it's not looking good. So I used to drive him nuts and say, Dad, come on, And so finally, he shared a shop with me, which, as I'm sure you all know, if you've had your shop for 34 years and haven't shared it, it's not an easy thing to do with a guy who doesn't know anything. So he was nice enough. I literally would not be here for the war because I'm a Christian, I'm a believer. I was an alcoholic 5 years ago. I sobered up and opportunities came that you wouldn't even believe. At the same time, my father helps me. Dad, thank you. Because without him, I literally wouldn't be here.
Derek, can I just say one thing? I'll only interrupt once. 40 years ago, I said to him, Derek, come work for me. Let's do woodworking remodeling together. And he goes, working for family, that's support. Fast forward, all right.
Yeah, so he was almost my age now, and I was a punk and all that. So, but he was patient with me, and he wanted to make sure his son was hands-on. And I'm a quick learner. So I learned basic woodworking skills and all that stuff. And he also got an education in some of this wood. I just remember times going, what is this? You know, it just is an unlimited supply of crazy wood in this world that if you know how to find it, the wood itself is a conversation. So I was using resaw, I was selling stuff, I was wood left and right, it was crazy. And it hurts. I mean, some of the wood, as you see, can be very expensive. So when you make those mistakes, or, you know, so I started picking up some customers. And all of a sudden, you know, it started to, the scale started to tip. I started to get busier, and busier, and busier, and busier. Now it's really nice. Let's go in business together. And the person was like, you know, I can understand why it's like, let's, you know, just let it kind of play out and all that. And then at one point, I think he and my mother realized, hey, he's onto something, but he really needs help. And he kind of knew where I was at, and there was a piece of equipment that was very expensive. It was a digital horizontal resaw, and I did not have one for it. So he said, you need that saw. And I said, yeah, I don't have money for this. So he goes, well, you will meet my wife, my mom, my dad. And so my parents made it commitment, my father especially said, I'll give you a commitment, but I'll tell you what, I'll buy the saw. And so we worked together. And so we had an arrangement that works, and it's grown. It's grown. It's grown. So I went from my basement, where it was dangerous, I had wood coming out of everything, and realized that it's not an ideal place to have, you know, run around. And so then I got to the point where not only was the passion more focused with wood business, but the income started to skew. It was strange. I didn't expect it to happen so fast. And so then I had to juggle both, and at one point I had to make a decision. Who are you going to be? What are you going to do? Because you can't do both. You're doing over 100 hours a week. You have like 2 little girls, you know, and, you know, you make a commitment to your father and your mother. It's like, so I made the scary decision to jump ship back in 18. No, 18. And so I went from making 165,000. I paid myself 25,000 the first year, and the second year. And so my wife, as you could imagine, she's still freaked out, but she's better now. But back then, she had to breathe. But I also had an extensive food service background, so I made the conscious where I said, if it doesn't work out, I'll go back to food service. And so by the grace of God, I didn't have to do that. And hopefully never will. So that's where it's grown. I take trips out west, and I just got an amazing first-hand knowledge, just like a sponge, and feeding that passion and countless hours of work every single week. So here I am 4 years later in my own shop with equipment, still in partnership with my father, growing. I have a half load of roasted firmly modified, highly figured wood coming next week worth more than my house. And so I still have to pinch myself and go, hey dude, how'd you get there? You know, it's humbling. But anyways, so enough about that. Let's talk about some stuff. I want to narrow it down. So, because there's too much to talk about. So let's talk about the figure. Kimball Hardwoods is primarily a maple supplier. We have about 15 other wood species, but that's our focus. So when I go after figured trees, we're looking for a particular shape. The only way I explain it is, and this isn't always true, but more often than not with maple trees and even other trees, the trees look muscular. They're not right. They're not normal. They're not perfect cylinders. I'm looking for those trees. The reality is you don't always get it right. But there's a humane way to find out. One, you got to make sure you talk to the property owner or the permits tree resides, but you actually have to take a small piece of bark. And what we're looking for is trees that have figure, it's basically distorted the wood's grain. So you either have a rolling curl or a bubble growth. Those are the two primary figure patterns, and that holds true for many wood species. Not all, but many. And And so there are two types of figure. This is you have compression, which is the most common, and it is what it is. It is compression. You got a large tree, which is 10,000 pounds, you have 1,000 pound limit, and it's crushing right at that section. That's why you see figure in crotch sections of trees. You have a lot of tension and you have a lot of compression all happening, swaying in the wind, and so that it's like arthritis to the tree. And it's very isolated. You will not see me cut a tree that has compression figure. I don't consider it to make just let it live. I'm not going to cannibalize a tree for people. Nothing. What we're after is like the slabs up there, which is Acer rubber. It is red maple. We're looking for a genetic figure. A genetic figure generally goes almost all the way through the tree to the heart. And to this day, nobody can give you the exact reason why. But I can tell you for a fact that that tree had saplings, that the sapling would have that figure. It is every time I've cut saplings from the parent tree that have figure, always has figure. You can gene splice a leaf from mom, put it in the stump, it will grow in exact form with figure. There's still a lot to be learned about this stuff. So here in the East, we primarily have curl figure. And so there's a lot of curl is a parent category. Because a lot of times guys go, well, what's the difference between plain and curl and what's fiddle back? It's all one and the same. It has everything to do with the figure that's shown on one side of the tree. I cut this literally to show you guys. So, it's gonna really lost in translation for our guys here, but figure looks different on the flat side than it does the quarter side than it does the rib side. And so generally you see a lot of guys cut lots, they flat saw for a couple reasons. They don't want any waste. A lot of guys go, I want a quarter saw, it looks great. All right, can I charge you 30% more? Well, I don't pay that. I don't want a quarter saw. So you see the problem we all have. Rib is a combination of both. Generally, it's what we call transition wood. You get a little bit characteristic of the flat saw. Yeah, can you grab me? I have my alcohol sprayer in the back room on the this guy's on the back room on there's a table set up. It's right by the tailors. All right. Wait to see this back with a custom sled piston drive. Just saying. So I just got it. I'm psyched. I bought it like 4 months ago. Found it in the back of the barn out in Washington State. I'm like, oh, guys, that. There's nothing. I'm like, can I buy it from you? He's like, no. I'm like, you guys taking off. It's about 5,000. He's like, okay. We're trying to like that a little bit. Guys, don't be nervous. It's only alcohol. Everything's done. So you see this on the flat side of the tree, you have a true rolling curl. Okay? And that is the parent term that people use. All this curly maple. Curly maple is curl on the flat face of the tree. Now you have quarter wood. That's called plain maple. It's an actual definition. It's curl figure on the quarter face. So when someone says to you, I want plain maple, they're asking for curl on the quarter face. And it looks very different than flat saw. Okay? Have a charcoal. Depending on the diameter log, small log. Like I buy logs from out of Canada. I bought 50 hard maple logs. I had cut, dried, and thermally modified. But those pants are only 13 inches, a 10-inch square. I lost 40% of that because I wanted a quarter. The reason I bought Canadian hard maple was because the angle regrowth is much tighter, the snowpack is much higher, much colder, it takes twice as long to grow. I knew that. So it's really important to know why you're cutting a tree a certain way. All right, so on to rip. Rip wood is generally, other than some species, it's a byproduct. You end up with it, right? If you're trying to turn circles into squares and rectangles, you're going to end up with it at some point. When someone says, I want ribbon curl, that's what they're talking about. It's a hybrid transition between flame and curl. And this is big leaf maple. And sometimes, if you're, I don't want to have, I'm sure I have it. And it's the only maple that does this. Actually, two. I don't know why it's the only maple that does this. On the rib side of the tree, it'll go curl. Curl. But I haven't figured out yet. I'm still, nobody can give me a straight answer. But I have tons of it like that. And so guys will cut wood. They go like cut it, point like look like 3 times as much. So that's this here. We got some cuts over there. I'm going to show you. I break. This is how we determine. You see this? These slabs. The slabs that were in the hallway when you walked in. The way you determine the tree has figure and how much figure. See that shimmer, the charlatans, the movement in that. This is called a cookie. I cut 1 inch to 2 inches off the end of the log. I took a hammer and smashed it. The tree doesn't lie. It'll tell you how deep that figure goes. And so the guy, knew it was special. He was asking for a price, and it was a price it was a price that I had to be sure that there was enough figure in this tree to be alive. And that's how I find out. See how it travels. That figure went all the way through the tree, and I knew it by breaking that figure. At that point, I had to justify this. So if you guys ever come across a log, you go, hey, it's got some curling outside. You're going to see this. I had the buff skin, they call them. And it shows the other curl around the edges. Really want to do some investigation, find out how much figures in it? Probably 1 to 2, take your chainsaw, 1 2 inch, cookie, cut it off again, and smash it. And wash will go through. Or will go through, dissipate. Then you have your answer. No, and that is light sensitive. You hold that to light, it looks like it moves. There's peaks and valleys. The grain is so distorted, it's literally evenly compressed. Now this one, really special. So I'll just talk grading. So maple, like I said before, if you guys can hear it, maple, I think usually maple is pretty good at it. You will see us. So maple grades A1 through 5. 5 being the best. There's one grade higher. It's called Masquerade. All figured wood, it is less than 1% of figured wood. Instrument grade, so you guys are all woodworkers. You can work around some defect, a little bit of light curl and all that. In the world we live in, it starts at 3A and goes up. We're very good customers. I bought some slabs from a guy out in Pennsylvania. This is Red Leaf Acer rubber. These things were monsters. They were 30 inches wide, 2 9/16 inches thick. They were 15 feet long. They were almost 500-pound slabs. It was a fraction. They were rare inside look at the highest grade maple and what it looks like inside the tree. That is a clean fraction line. So if you take this, just grab the light, you can see it move, dance. That's literally, I'm going to pass this around. It's literally peaks and valleys. And you sit there and you go, this tree weighs 6, 7, 8,000. How did it fall over? So I'll start there. Look at it like this, and that's where you get that.
So what I think in there has a lot of tension and compression in the figure.
I'll be all the above. Oh, it's not stable. You see wood that's like that, that's an aesthetic wood. I mean, there are guys, that's porcelain. There are guys we go for it in the guitar business, we make that 20,000, but we have the ability, the guys put truss rods in there, so it counteracts that tension, and you can make adjustments. So, but it is coarse on wood. We generally don't get coarse on wood back in bigger. Never have really had any issues. So,
You soak it in rinse, will that stabilize the pressures in there?
it could, there's a lot of unknowns. And if you set deep into an amazing project, and it doesn't work out, it's a heartbreaker, you know what I mean? I've had wood do crazy stuff. Absolutely stuff that makes no sense. While you guys pass it on, I'm gonna just touch on one more thing. Wood handling. So I get a ton of questions from experienced guys, not experienced guys, beginners, people who think they know everything. I don't claim to know everything, but you know how to handle wood. So it does not matter what you have, whether it's a board, a plank, square, it does not matter. All wood has EMC, I'm sure you guys know, equilibrium moisture content, right? It's all about the wood's moisture, how active it is, where it's stored. Is it activated? Has it been sitting there for a while? And as long as there is, wood doesn't like rapid change. We're in New England. We're always like rapid change. So if you're working on your garage, the beauty of this factory, even though it's way too warm in here, it's slow to react. So a lot of the wood gets very well. So if wood is surface, pressure. Flat reference pressure. I get teased about how much plastic wrap I use. When I send stuff out, I wrap it both ways. This wood will flex. Doesn't move. Or if you have rough stock, no problem. Leave it out. You'll see it. I got pallets just sitting there. You leave it alone. It's the greatest surface. The second you open up that drain, you gotta do something. Move. It's always moving.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
He's absolutely right when it comes to, like, when we resaw, you have a block in it, a big, heavy, big piece of wood, and it has some oxidation on the outside, now that's kind of sealed, and even if it's like, air dried at 18–19%, it's relatively stable. When we surface it, and especially when I put it through a resaw in a thinner section, when I cut 300,000 stick, I pull that off the saw, it comes off my bandsaw, it's a really good finish. It's a really very fine finish. If I don't cover the face of that within 10–15 minutes, it'll start to react.
Yeah.
Literally, it's right. Pressure is good, but even more important than pressure is don't allow that, even put another piece of wood over it so it can't react quickly. If it acclimates slowly, you stay out of trouble. It's like, it's really high quality woodworker in Pennsylvania. Sends out a thing like Derek sends out with some of his stuff. Wood never stops moving. And you guys will most people woodworkers know that it never ever stops moving. It's always looking for equilibrium. And so you gotta control that. You don't want to destroy like a nice project like that, like this gentleman.
Yeah. I mean, this one piece of wood here is $125 just one. So it depends what your project is. If I'm selling that to a guy and he wants, inch and a quarter, maybe a little bit bigger, inch and 3/8. We'll cut it close, so it's not handled right, not just on my end, but also his end. So the idea is, and the same principle applies. You have wood in your shop, the best thing you can do, if you're saying, hey, I got this project, I want another piece of wood, find another piece of wood, marry it together, wrap it, if you shop, throw it in the wall. The key is flat reference to flat reference. Wood will do what you ask it to. If you have an uneven surface, you will have a both piece of wood. So make sure she's flat. Wrap them together. I know a lot of guys will long pump storage will just throw stuff on a shelf. You can do that, but ideally it'd be nice to wood in wood. So you guys probably don't need as much to talk about that. I will talk about it. Forget it. We can't leave on radio in the sun. So the goal is to sell the wood and not get that. But anyways, you guys want to see some bodies in the freezer? So one of the things that we're known for is,
Derek?
yeah,
So general rule of thumb, so when they build this bumper, most people are figuring them, air drying.
yeah,
So what you're referring to is after they
Yeah,
drive it?
stickering showed you, in my professional opinion, we've only done it for 2 reasons. Wood that you're gonna take from green, which is, by the way, that's terminology is incorrect. Green is referring to a young sapling. Wet wood. If you're gonna long-term store wood and your goal is to air dry it, stickers. I'll make a suggestion. There's a company out of Pennsylvania. What's wrong?
Oh, right there.
And I might even get a business. And the idea is that there's very minimal contact on the surface to prevent sticker stain. Because when you air dry wood, if you don't have a semi-open shed where you have, nature with airflow and all that, you will end up with sticker stain. So if you're along board, the rule of thumb, the sticker, your horrible airflow, you're going to have a beautiful board with sticker stain over a long period of time. People will right through wood. And there's no way of getting rid of it unless you thermally modify the wood, literally paint it a different color, which is pointless. So, and the other reason to use stickers is, and these are larger stickers, for guys that are buying and selling tons of slabs, and you have to forklift easy access. Outside of that, do not stick with wood. Makes absolutely no sense.
So the face-to-face that we were talking about before is like, when it's milled, when it's dry, and you have this vertical position, and it's maybe in the middle of a project, or you have a bunch of different wood that you're gonna use while it's being in the process several days or a week or like that, to keep it stacked face-to-face, so that it doesn't have the ability, to absorb water or moisture rather, in an uneven fashion too. If you're gonna block one face, you want to block the other face. And the end grain's not really a big issue with kiln dry wood if you're down below 10%. But yeah, flat is great like that. But like Derek said, there are luthiers out there that they just take it, they open it up, and they throw it on the shelf, and it's like some of the people that build from where you sell it, it would come from here, and it may be a 12% or a 10% or something like that. And then they'll put it on a shelf in Florida or in Arizona, and it's like 11%, and it's gonna react to that.
I get messages all the time. Hey, what's wrong with this? I'm like, oh boy, folks, you gotta go back and train people, and that's the thing. People are either people don't know, too afraid to ask, or and a lot of times we get this. This tells you how in demand highly figured wood is. The increase year over year of people who are buyers, not tradesmen, has gone up dramatically. So a client is reaching out to me, and it's not just for guitar parts guys, it's for everything. Jewelry boxes, all that stuff. Because they have to have the wood to send to their neighbors. So we have an influx of people who know zero about wood. We're sending it to them in return. Sure, it's going over well with their builder. Yeah. They generally don't like to be jumpers. So, okay. So we're known for, ironically, we're in the Northeast, we're known for Northwestern as well. We are, I'll say, we're one of the largest suppliers of highly figured Pacific Northwest paper for guitar parts. One of on the east. So in the freezers, it's best. This wood is the most temperamental maple on planet Earth. It comes from a geographical area. The best quilted maple in the world comes from the Olympic Peninsula, Washington State. Hands down. End of story. It does grow in it's a coastal maple, very large, grows fast, and no one really knows why it grows so. But it's generally a coastal tree, and you can find it in Oregon. But the best, we call it the creek. Bright white, those names, very, defect is defect, no matter where the tree resides. But everyone wants the impossible. They want to be as white as this table cover, and they want, to get dizzy when they look at it because they found something bigger. So we have some of that in the freezers, and it's so valuable that I spend a lot of money in freezers. And if I take one of these blocks and I leave it out, tomorrow morning we'll have stain. You cannot leave it out there. And put fans on it, you'll face check. It's like the most complicated wood. So when we cut this, and I had cans over there, you guys can see this next to the Tanowitz. These things are nuts, 75% moisture. And it's like, you go nuts because you can't put them in the kiln, they'll explode. They'll split from the center out. So we have to, it's a painstaking process where we have to slow down. It's not just anchor seal the ends and slow it down. I literally have to stop, start the thawing, drying process multiple times to keep it from splitting the thing. If I can get it to 30%, we're good. Everything it would have done, it would have already done by now. Now it's kiln safe. But that process could take 7, 8, 9, 10 months. So it's a game. But let me show you one of 175 pieces ranging from 40 to 160 pounds. And I have 2 more freezers down there. This is called Masquerade. We do alder, Pacific Northwest red alder. That's African mahogany. We have basswood. This black walnut would knock your socks off. It's curly. The other half is pretty much open winter. Yeah, I did. Pacific Northwest plain maple. Quilted color. This palette here is amazing. This is old growth, super straight grain Alaskan yellow cedar that's now controlled by the Chinese. You cannot get this wood anymore. So this is graded. So cedar, spruce is not graded for figure. It's graded based on straight grain orientation, number of growth grains per inch. That master grade, unreal. If you want to see how many rings, just keep your eyes over that. It's unbelievable. True Honduran mahogany, bird's eye maple, will cut up the percent to be roasted. More plain maple. Here's a 1,000 pre-cut acoustic sets of 25-year-old silver straight grain ground grade spruce.
No, you can't have that. I'll never miss a picture. Look how much he's got.
That sound also vibrates the over side. That's why hey, here's a great word, guys. Just check out before work. Right here. That way. Very much so these are classic wood. Yeah, it's all this is all I'm a long way from step up to those. It's can be based on color scan.
Need a little mahogany?
Wow. So this is set up. Some guy engineered this sled. This is what sold when I saw the sled. So because you can take, we're fixing it now, but it's got a full switch. There's a drive. Clamp the wood, take it through, slice it. So what happens is a piece of wood that's, even if you talk about that wood, so
all set.
Sawing it on the vertical, we saw, there's no
Both
that.
sides, and you need.
The saw blade here is 19 feet, 4 inches, it's 1 tooth per inch.
This is
Piece of, very deep. The idea is you want to discard wet pulp wood. You do that with regular dry blades, binds them up, stops the blade drifting, great, you can snap the blade, you can get hurt. This is the workhorse piece. We create a table here, and send it, literally send it through, you know?
Yeah.
A lot of falls over, so you don't want, you can't see that thick, so the vinyl, so I can bring it down in thickness, so you can breathe.
Put the wood on the.
1 tooth per inch. Yeah.
Sprinkle.
And that's generally a softer hard spectrum. You start getting up in the hard maple and harder, wet,
Yeah.
it all doesn't change, you still need that depth, to discard, pulpy weapon.
You would pass this piece through the blade, how long will it take you for one pass?
I've done it, so. Down the hardwoods, yeah. But sticky maple, soft maple,
What size, 1 inch, blade?
it's a 1/4.
1/4.
Yep. Yep. So. Find that. Yeah, you know, I had it out of the gate, kind of a rental. And, I'm not super.
That's just being set up.
Yeah, we just.
Cover
that.
it.
What's that? No. Yeah. I got older than I can't believe I had a house made for $21 land on the shirt.
It's the highlighted, right? It's not.
Because I usually get, Highland Boards, my up in Georgia. So it's great wood slice of blades, right, like ladder, all that, I swear that. So, Dr. Mr. Lennox over here. Yeah. What's your blade on the grizzly horizontal? What is it? Isn't it a TriMaster?
It's a Lennox TriMaster, it's like 14 per inch, and so the thing's doing 7,200, the finish is great, 7,200 feet per minute, so I figured that piece of wood's getting hit by 4,000 teeth every second. Imagine that? And so that's why I just say with 30 horsepower drive. It's $400.
So if you could imagine a couple of times we accidentally sent wood through a 21% moisture.
Oh yeah, it's just, when it
It's switch, but this pops. Sometimes you get pops.
Jeff, when we were taking this blade, like, like when they put, guys that have mills, they put like a mixture of dawn or whatever.
No, so that's outdoor, like with my style mill, I don't eat that. I don't eat that. It stains, the oxidation stains the wood. You take the painter's edges and scrape them.
but the water thing is, it makes sense on that kind of operation, otherwise I wouldn't be able to really run that kind of production rate. But here, when you just cut 24-inch billets, let's go a little bit slower with a big gullet, like, it's like 1 tooth per inch. 1 tooth per inch. Yeah,
So the other thing too is on the wood misers, much more tension. They run like 2,500 PSI on those.
I run about 1,700.
Which that's high, but on these,
Yeah, they say, now they say crank those things down, get the text.
Yeah, that's true. You should. Yeah, you do good stuff, but it's a whole different ballgame. The other thing too is those guys that are cutting, they're running pine, they're running, so, yeah. What do they care?
They go to the blades a lot.
What do they care? I lost a 50, I have a little guy I know, actually, guy drives my foot, Joe in Rhode Island Sawmill. He's an awesome guy. He's a different kind of dude, but Joe and I have gotten.
Everybody's going down. He's a different kind of dude.
Yeah. Joe, yeah. He's Joe, Joe and I get along very, very well. So Joe,
He's a little,
yes, sometimes $150, $200 in a shot, you don't care, and it's what it is. That's his choice, it's his sawmill, you know what I mean, so we're taking matters into our own hands, so we're dry here, we're saw here, it's still okay. I'm still gonna say.
What do you use to measure the moisture content?
So I use a pinless whacker, we use reactor, although I think it needs to be calibrated. I also have a $1,000 brick, which I can take out of boxes.
So I'm sorry, you liked it, you bought it?
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, we ever need that? Absolutely. So, but the wagon's cool because if you guys have used the free wagons, they want you to pin. There's nothing wrong with it. A good one. But it's a loaded. Well, but, yeah, so guys, you can buy a motion base for $5 Harbor Freight, or you can buy it for $1,000, and it makes a difference. So in our business, we need to know. We can't guess. So mine is middle tier at $400. But I can tell you this one, take my Wagner, put it right here, without, give you moisture, you put your hand right up, it'll measure the moisture in it. So it's accurate. That's what I want, because what happens when you go dry walnut, the walnuts, getting walnut dry is like, you like lose your mind. So, you know, dry, not dry, like it's frustrating. Which, by the way, you guys can see those before you get walnut. It's claro, walnut, burl. This thing has cookies too. I've never seen smell it. So if you guys want to go down there.
So you're rattling that off, you said?
No, I don't know what I want to say. Okay, let me run ahead and I'll spray these a little bit so you, because sometimes the figure weight like that. Red leaf doesn't work. You have Eastern Red, Ambrosia. Wow, these are real ones. I'm gonna call you Sammy. Yeah, I know. We get two hands straight. So here's West Coast. Turn it up to a little. There's some cool maple.
And this spalt that you see right there is a lot of the spalt that Derek has. It's like solid. A lot of times you get it, if it's gone too far, it's funky, and it's nice, but it's got to be stabilized. And unless if you know what you're doing, you're okay. But a lot of this stuff it's hard. You read and find woodworking, and this guy was saying that the only spalt that's legit is Eastern rock maple, and it's not true. That big leaf right there, and it's solid.
No, yeah, we've got some stuff that's super firm.
Yeah,
where's mine? All right. Here's my Roger Q. Gill in the back of the line. 5/8 grade curly hard rock maple. A 1,000-year-old redwood. Here's your grades: 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, master grade bird's eye maple. The number rise. It's master. It's 5. Sure.
is that everything through?
Look at this pearl. If I just cut this whole month ago, first of all, almost destroy your guys' house. He dropped the tree, I literally almost destroyed my house. Look at that, bro. That is dynamite. Buckeye pearl, horse chestnut. I'm sure you probably believe it, it's not extinct.
Yeah.
So Buckeye pearl. And here's that cool big claro walnut. I don't even know what to call this. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. I'll give you like that. No, that can't be like that. Exhibition grade, flat top walnut. Fast stone walnut. Myrtle, plain myrtle. Look at the curl. How much was that plain myrtle? It's like we call it angel here. It's so fine. I worked for Top Food Service for many years. From there, I went to PFG